how did I make this animation in Scratch of all things?
Hi, I'm Buayani, and today I'm going to go over my process in making pull-ups be like, or as you know it, I made this in Scratch, my most complex animation yet. I'll even have some tips at the end for people who want to get into Scratch animation. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. That's all the editing prowess you'll ever see from me. Let's start with Blender and Krita. I'm combining these two because I used both for the backgrounds and because these softwares are not really what you're here for Scratch. But, in case you didn't know, Blender is a free 3D modeling software and Krita is a free 2D illustration and animation software, but I don't really know how to use it for animation. So, basically, for all of the animation's backgrounds, I built a model of the gym and rendered it at various camera angles, but usually at something like 1280 by 720 resolution. I did model all of this gym equipment myself because I wanted to learn Blender, and this was a great learning experience making all of these. This is the first ever scene I've made, and the only scene I've ever made. I also made these images you see around the gym in Krita, like this wolf right here. And speaking of the animation itself, I had to cut out certain foreground elements to get this parallax effect you see in the animation, which I did in Krita, as you can see here. Basically, I rendered the scene once without the bar, and once with the bar, and I cut out the bar. Even had to manually add these shadows from the bar back in Krita. Don't ask me what that line is. There's also these little rectangular prisms, if I could pull that up. These little rectangular prisms that I made for character references because there was no way I was making 3D models of these characters just for this, like, come on. These, of course, weren't shown in the renders. Also, I just drew stuff like the end screen in Krita, which is pretty straightforward, but now you know. That's pretty much it for these two, but before we move on, I want to bring up a detail no one will ever notice from the animation, and that I will never have a chance to bring up again. See this cafe over here? The Drink Alone Cafe? All of the tables are one-seaters. Again, there is no way you could ever see this animation because of how low resolution the backgrounds are, but I just thought it was funny. With that, let's move on. So now it's time for the main event. First of all, I just want you to see the code. In case you didn't get to see it before. This is what I had to deal with. It's not the most advanced thing ever, it's just tedious. For most of this animation, I have the animation code and the sprite movement code running at the same time. Let me just try to find an example of that. I know, right here. This is moving and this is the animation. To help sync these and time these correctly, I have lots of broadcast blocks. Basically, if I were to run this block, it will run all of this code, and this goes between sprites too. See, there's the same broadcast block. We'll call the code in the animation sprite, this background sprite, and if I could find it, not here. Right here. This foreground sprite too. All of these will start at the same time. Also, real quick, the reason it's in widescreen is I made this little letterbox overlay. So there you go. Now, here's how I put the renders I was talking about in. Here they are. If you use Scratch or Turbo Warp, you can put them in at their original resolution instead of dumb 960 by 720, which Scratch usually forces, though if the file size is too big, the project won't save. That limit is usually around 5 megabytes for me. You can also see the foreground stuff. Wait, let me start it for you. right here. I'll hide this. And here's this foreground element, and I can move it around independently. That's what I had to cut out before. So that was pretty simple. Now I'll show you how I made these frames here. Like this. Here I have a previous version of the animation. The first thing I did were these rough frames. As the name implies, they're just simple, rough little drawings that I used to plan out the whole animation, how the characters move, how the background moves, when to play a background noise or music. It's basically a watchable storyboard. Then, after that, I make these sketches, which are actually animated, though they're still very rough. This is to make sure that all of the movement and timing looks right before I start the rendering. If I want to change something or there's a big mistake, I can do that here. And finally, I draw over it in vector, which you can see a bit of here. It's a very early version. Now, here's how I render. I'll do it with this orange. I start off with a shape. I copy it with Alt-click. And I add an outline. Color it. Just make it the same as this. Then I copy it again. Alt-click, erase a little, and I can recolor it. And there you go. I can even do more, like add this gradient. Oh, 1 second. Oh, wait. Oh, this is a disaster. Wait. I can add this gradient. So, a little gradient here. And a highlight. Even have it go over if I want to. This isn't exactly how I render now, but this is how I did it back when I was making this. So yeah. After that, I can just delete the sketch and it's ready, though that wasn't ready because I had to render RoboEye here. That's my process for making frames. If you want a video on my thought process for animating, this isn't the video for you. I may make a video explaining how I animate. This is mostly just how I draw in Scratch. Now, for the programming. And finally, I want to talk about how I move everything around so smoothly. Here's the custom block I made called the Smooth Bezier Cosine Glide, or SBCG. There's a lot going on here, and I forgot how it all works. So, to explain why I use this big unwieldy thing, I'll compare it to other glide methods that use in Scratch. First, I have the plain default Scratch glide block. It's in the editor. It's not a custom block. It's alright, I use it sometimes, but it's very simple. The sprite moves at the same speed the whole time, and it can be kind of jarring to see it start and stop so suddenly. Again, has its uses, but what if you want something smoother? Well, we have the original Smooth Glide. That's been here forever, and by smooth, I mean only smooth at the end, because it's even more jarring at the start. It starts really fast and slows down gradually until it reaches the end. Again, it has its uses, but neither of these are good for big sweeping camera movements like the ones I used in Mall Prank or pull-ups. Plus, neither of these change anything other than the X and the Y. Nothing to do with size or angle, though for this you can pretty easily just program that in. But the real issue is that there's no way to get a smooth start with either of these blocks. My first attempt to solve this was the Smooth Cosine Glide, so now we have a smooth start. See, this is a graph that shows cosine. Think of the X, which is the horizontal, as time, and the Y, which is vertical, as the position. And think of the slope as how fast I'm going. I'm going from up here to down there. At the start, I'm moving slowly. At the middle, I'm moving a lot faster, and at the end, I'm back to moving slowly. That's how this block works. Plus, I have offsets, which would cut off either the start or the end of this graph. That means I can choose to start fast like the original Smooth Glide, or I can choose to end fast, which isn't possible with either of the old blocks. Though the way I programmed it, I had to do some math to get in the position I want. Here it is. So, for example, if I set the start offset to 90, which is halfway, let's see it change. Yep, it started in the middle to where it should, which is here. So, if I set it to 492, which... Okay, it does. It's just I didn't change the size. But yeah, it starts in the right place. To be honest, I usually just did this by trial and error. However, it's only for the X, the Y, and the size. I didn't think to make one for angle when I made this. But more importantly though, you can't do any sort of curve with any of these glide methods. You just go from point A to point B in a straight line. You can hear some dogs out there. To solve this, I made the smooth Bezier cosine glide. I renamed it from smooth Bezier curve glide because cosine is a cooler word. Basically, there's an extra point C that it curves off of, as you can see. However, it turns out I have no idea what I'm doing because it's completely off of where it should be. So, it's fine, it still curves, but like, if anyone here actually knows what they're doing with stuff like this, please help me. I also tried to remake the offset so I didn't have to do all the math I did, but now using it just starts you off slightly before where you should be, so you gotta deal with that. So please, if anyone knows what they're doing, make a better version. So whatever, it worked with the animation. It's still better than this hot garbage. Like, God, I can't believe I ever used that. So yeah, that's basically everything I wanted to go over. If you have any questions about my process, please ask in the comments and I'll try my best to get back to you. Now, here are some tips I wanted to give for aspiring Scratch animators. First of all, do not use the bitmap editor for anything other than rough sketches, and do not use Scratch's audio editor at all. Bitmap animators, they're trying to strike a chord and it's probably B flat, because that's pretty much all you can do. I can draw something, I can fill it in, and that's all. Let me just make this a lighter color. So yeah, you want shading? Make sure not to cover your outline, because then you gotta fix that, and it takes a while. I want you to see the process. Fix this line here, and fix this here. It's not exactly fun. You want a gradient? You can do that. I just really hope you'll like this gradient because... can't undo if you switch costumes. It's here to stay. That's the issue with the bitmap editor. It's really limited. There's no layers, no alpha locks. You have to jump through hurdles just to get anything translucent. Vector is also limited, but it does actually work if you know how to use it. You just gotta also jump through hurdles. But, you know, you can do more. If you want Scratch bitmap, just use something else like Krita and import those images in or something. But if you do want its simplicity, like if you just want to make really simple things, it's still completely usable. I can't say the same for Scratch's audio editor. First of all, if you import something like an MP3 file, I'll do that again. It's in Vine Boom sound effect, MP3. And if you try to edit it, like let me remove this silence, I'll export it, and it's a WAV. That's massive. Like, WAV files are a lot bigger than MP3 files, which are compressed. But like, that makes sense why they do that. You can't just reconvert it into an MP3, because then it would lose quality really fast. MP3 is lossy. However, to combat how big WAV files, they made it so if you try to import a stereo file and edit it like what I just did, it turns it into mono. That means every sound is coming from the middle instead of left or right or whatever. And obviously you can't really do anything. This is all you get. There's no reverb, no filters or anything, no way to take out a bunch of bass or treble for mixing, but you do have robots, which just garbles everything up, and not even in a funny way. It's not like bass boosting or anything. I use Audacity, which is free, and yeah, it's so much better. I can actually edit stuff and export them as MP3s, and there's a lot more you can do here. But yeah, save yourself a lot of pain and just use Audacity or anything but Scratch's built-in audio editor. With those negatives out of the way, here's even more. If your project has too many assets in it, and let me just manually create this, you may see something like this replacing a lot of the costumes or whatever. Don't ask me why that's in Comic Sans. But yes, this gray box with the black question mark. This is a really well-known issue, and it's been plaguing a lot of my old projects. But yeah, if your project has this, you have to reload, and if those costumes don't come back, don't save by the way, reload without saving. If you do that, it's locked in. So yeah, reload the project without saving. If there's still question marks, reload again. Keep doing that, and if there still are, I'm sorry, but you've lost part of your project. To avoid this, you should make backups every once in a while, just a good rule. You should also pay attention to how many assets are in your project. And by asset, I mean costumes and audio files. For me, the question marks show up around 1200 to 1500 assets, so I usually like to keep my projects far below that. If I want to make a project that goes above that, I usually just make 2 parts for it. However, I've gotten a lot of comments saying that they got question marks in projects that I've never gotten them in, so it could be different for you. Also, I found these question marks never show up if you use the Turbo Warp offline editor. I've never used Scratch's official offline editor to make an animation, so I can't tell you if it's the same there. In any case, if you try to upload a project with a ton of assets to the Scratch Online editor, which you need to do to share it, it may not save. Though this may be another issue. I haven't done really any real testing with this. Keep in mind, it's not individual file size, like if I upload an image that's like 4 megabytes, it'll be fine. But there is still a limit on that. It's the amount of assets. So yeah, what you need to take away from this is to avoid these question marks no matter what. Also, you can use Alt-click to resize an object in the middle instead of at the end, or from the corner. However, do not, and I repeat, do not do that on a trackpad, though it may be between if the trackpad has a dedicated right-click button or not, because if it doesn't, I wouldn't suggest it. It makes infinite copies instead of just one, and you have to reload the project without saving, but yeah, that's it. I guess these tips are really negative and could turn people off of animating in Scratch, but I do love it. This isn't me trying to nerf myself here, I'm very used to it. And you just gotta know what to avoid. It's not as hard as it seems. I like working with Scratch's programming system because of the cool movement stuff I can make, like the smooth Bezier cosine glide. Oh my god, I can't speak. But yeah, I can even make menus or little games right in the project. You can't really do that on anything else I know. It's basically just Flash if that still existed. But yeah, don't let this discourage you if you want to start. There's still a ton you can do in Scratch. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you have any questions, again, go ahead and ask in the comments, though I can't really help you with technical issues. I'm talking questions you ask before you do something crazy. Before this video ends, I just want to thank you all so much for your support and kind words. I've been at this for a while, and it feels so amazing to pop off so suddenly like this, especially because it was on my biggest project yet. Like, look at this. For reference, before this animation came out, I had 81 subscribers on YouTube, and now I'm at 16,500. That's like 200 times the original. This animation took 7 months to make, and clearly it's paid off. Again, thank you all so much. I love you guys, and trust me, I'll be back. Have a good day, and be sure to take care of yourself. See ya!